Okay, the first thing you're going to do is get out your black and white notebook and write this down, all of this down in your black and white notebook. Starting with classifying real numbers, put a line across the top, divide it in half, and then you're going to copy all this down. On the rational side, you're going to put whole numbers, integers, fractions, terminating decimals, repeating decimals, and any number that cannot be expressed as a fraction is rational. And here are examples of rational numbers. 3, -6, 5/8. 1.7 is a terminating decimal. 3.5 is a repeating decimal. The square root of 25 is 5. And the square root of 121 is 11. Those are all rational numbers. The sub can pause so you can get everything written down. On the other side are your irrational numbers. Any decimal that is infinite, which means it doesn't terminate and doesn't repeat in a pattern, would be irrational. Here's an example of some irrational numbers. The square root of 11 is irrational because the square root of any number that's not a square number will give you a non-repeating, non-terminal decimal, and therefore it is irrational. So all three of these square roots would be irrational because 11 is not a perfect square, 23 is not a perfect square, and 140 is not a perfect square. Again, the sub can back up and pause to make sure you guys get all of this written down. Now we're going to move on to our exercises. You're going to do these on whiteboards with a partner. So you're going to start with rewriting these fractions as decimals. So the first one you're going to do is 4/8. That's T-bow. There's also a shortcut. If you think about it, 4/8 equals a much simpler fraction, and rewriting that fraction as a decimal is very simple. Go ahead and pause it, sub. And the answer to number 1, you can take 4/8, simplify it, it becomes 1/2, and 1/2 is easily written as a decimal as 0.5. Or, if you'd rather, you can T-bow 4/8, put the 4 in and the 8 out, and that's how you would T-bow 4/8, and you would still get 0.5 or 5/10 as your answer. Number 2 is 3/5. Pause it, sub. With 3/5, you can just go ahead and T-bow it. When you T-bow it, you get 0.6, which is 6/10. Now there was another way to do this. Look at this fraction. 5 can easily become 10 by multiplying it by 2. So it's legal for me to multiply the top and the bottom of a fraction by the same number without changing its value. So if I took 3/5 and multiplied the top and the bottom by 2, I'd get 6/10, and 6/10 is easily written as a decimal. There's 2 ways to do number 2. Number 3, go ahead and pause it. Okay, number 3 would be done like this. Number 3 is 1 2/3. So this is a whole number 1, so if I'm going to rewrite this as a decimal, there's still my whole number 1. I would just take it from here over here, that's 1, and then the fraction part only I would turn into a decimal. So you could T-bow 2/3, and a lot of you remember that 2/3 is, when you T-bow it, is a repeating decimal. And I should have put my Repetron on there. There's 1 2/3, and if you forgot, I took 2/3 and I T-bowed it, and there's how the division works, and you can see that the 6 repeats. Okay, number 4. is 6/15. 6/15. Just go ahead and T-bow it. That's probably the easiest thing to do. So if you T-bow 6/15, you get 4/10. Okay, number 5 is rewrite as a fraction. The first one is 3.5. Go ahead and pause it. Okay, 3.5, if you think about it, oh my gosh, if that was money, that'd be $3.50. Isn't $3.50 $3.50? Yeah, it is. Or if you want to, if you're going to rewrite it as a fraction, you're going to keep your whole number 3. And this is 3, and this is 5/10. So if I wrote it 3 and 5/10, I would keep my 3 and simplify 5/10. Now you can T-bow 5/10, but 5/10 simplifies to a half. So you don't even have to, oh, you're not going to T-bow it anyway, sorry, because we're turning it into a fraction. So you would write 3 and 5/10, and then you would simplify this, and 5/10 is 1/2. That's an easy one. Okay. Number 6 is the square root of, I'm sorry, 0.36 repeating. Pause. Now remember, when we do a repeating decimal, we take the 0.36 and we instantly put it in the numerator of our fraction, and it would take 2 movements of this to get the decimal to the end. So we're going to put 100, would move that twice, and subtract 1, and we get 36/99. But look at all those 3, 6, and 9s. That could be simplified. So I went ahead and factored 36. I got 9 times 4. Factored 99, got 9 times 11. I canceled out my factors of 9 and simplified it equals 4/11. Alright, number 7 is 0.48. Pause. Remember, 0.48 is 48 hundredths. So we'll write it as a fraction, but then we will have to simplify it. So 48 hundredths looks like that. If I factor 48, I did 4 times 12. If you did 6 times 8 and kept factoring it, you'd still get the same answer that I got. I did this, and then I canceled out my 4s, I factored my 12, and I factored my 25, and nothing canceled out. So I multiplied them back together, and my answer is 12/25. Okay, that's the end of the RTI video part 1.